Hi, David Dalton here with the Indiana Department of Transportation. I am joined this morning by Crystal Weaver, our construction engineer from our Seymour district. Thank you for joining me, Crystal.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, we're going to have a career pathway conversation, so we're excited. We're going to dive right in. Can you provide a brief overview of kind of your career journey from where you started to where you are now?
Sure. So I graduated with an engineering degree from Valparaiso University, hired on with INDOT full-time in the Graduate Engineers Development Program, spent a full year going through all of the different sections of INDOT, learning and seeing what was the best fit for both the agency and for me,
Mm-hmm.
and ended up in our hydraulics office doing highway drainage design, culvert and bridge design. I was a hydraulics engineer for about 6 years, and then I became the hydraulics manager and was responsible for all the highway drainage in the state. Did that for about 4 years, and then decided to try something new and came out to construction
Mm-hmm.
and in our Seymour district, and have been a construction engineer for nearly 5 years now.
Great. Now, have you always been in the Seymour district?
Well, no, in central or in hydraulics, excuse me, hydraulics is based out of central office.
Okay, okay, great.
I worked in our downtown Indianapolis office for 11 years, basically, before coming to Seymour District.
Okay, great. So within your current role as a construction engineer, can you share maybe what a typical day in the life would be like if there is an actual typical day?
They're close enough, yes. So I don't actually work in our district office. Our district encompasses from the south side of Indianapolis all the way
Mm-hmm.
down to the Ohio River, and then from the state of Ohio over past Bloomington.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the northern part of the district. I actually still live in the Indianapolis area and tend to work around the Greenwood, Franklin area.
Okay.
I have at least one project a year, full contract, doing something, whether it's asphalt resurface or bridge construction, culvert box culvert placement, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever my project is for the year, I'm responsible for doing the inspection and making sure that the contractor is putting everything in the ground properly,
Mm-hmm.
that they're following the plans, making sure we measure everything so that we're paying the contractor fairly, and also protecting the taxpayer funding, making sure that we are actually buying what we want to buy for
Mm-hmm.
half of the state. Um, it's a mix of field work and office work. There's paperwork side of things, making sure that we're paying the contractor, and making sure that we are set up to pass an audit at the end of the job. But it's also field work. I'm out next to a paver, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
with the contractor in a hole trying to solve a problem. So every day is a little bit different. It's fast paced. You have to make some decisions on the fly,
Yeah.
but I'm outside in all weather. I've been outside in 17 degrees and snow. I've been outside in 100 degrees and 95% humidity. I mean, it's a little bit of everything. So you basically your day is rarely set for you at the beginning of the day.
Do you, having said that, just out of curiosity, having been in the elements, do you prefer the hot or the cold, or does it matter at all for you?
Um, the hot is easier to cope with just because you're not so bulked up that you can't move your arms. I mean, I will end up looking like the little boy from A Christmas Story who can't put his arms down. So the hot's a little bit easier, but I've also found that since I'm outside all day, every day, I've really gotten used to your body changes with the seasons. So the hot isn't really terrible because you've worked your way up to it and then you work your way back down.
Sure, sure. Uh, c- you know, before you started college, did you have a career path laid out for you, or how did you find where you wanted to go and what you wanted to do professionally?
Well, I knew I wanted to be an engineer. I was good at math and science. We have a strong engineering tendency in my family. I'm actually the
Mm.
fifth one, the third on both sides of the family. Um, so I knew I was good at math and science. That seemed to be the right career path. And then in college is when I finally decided to go civil engineering versus
Mm.
other mechanical engineering or other types. So I did kind of have a goal in mind, but I didn't quite expect to end up on a construction site in central Indiana.
Mm. Interesting. Now, What what was your first job ever?
My first job ever was a golf course attendant at Southport Putt Putt. So I worked at all through high school. I worked at a putt putt golf course.
That's good. Do, did you play putt putt, or did you work and you're like, I don't want to have anything to do with putt putt?
Well, we played putt putt a lot as kids, which is why it was such a good idea as a job. I played. There were enough opportunities when times were slow that you could get a couple courses in here or there. But yes, I have not played putt putt in a very long time.
um, well, kind of going back to that time, if you could go back and give yourself a piece of advice, when you're about to graduate, or as a younger person thinking about decisions that you're going to make, what would be a piece of advice that you would give yourself?
It sounds counterintuitive, but I would say don't stress over coursework so much.
Mm,
I mean, especially in engineering school, the theory is difficult. It's you spend a great deal of time worrying about your grades, but then you get out of school and realize that so much of the job is judgment based and
hmm.
so much is just learning that my GPA doesn't show what sort of engineer I am. And
Sure.
if I'd done that, I wouldn't have stressed quite so hard about some of the struggles I had in college.
Now, that's good advice. I think we have a tendency to get overwhelmed, especially when we have a lot of things going on. But I really think that's a good point of, maybe what you have instructional wise versus application of what you're learning.
Right.
Um, uh, so thinking about that, what would be one skill set that you have to be successful in your position as a construction engineer?
Uh, Flexibility, because as an engineer, I am very much a planner. I like to have a set course of what I like to do, and no plan for the day survives about 8:15 in the morning. Uh, so you have to be willing to chuck everything out the window and go, okay, I guess we're doing this today. Okay.
Hmm.
So you have to be flexible and to know that you have very little control over everything, and you just have to kind of let it ride sometimes.
That's great, and I think that's probably a skill set that, in general, a lot of people just need to have. Just to be adaptable, and things happen probably all the time. And um, so, why? What would you say about why somebody should get into the highway industry, and specifically, what is it about INDOT that uh, motivates you, and why would somebody want to join and become part of our organization?
So the highway industry in general, there's a lot of different places you can work
Hmm.
that you, with an engineering degree, you don't have to do design. If you get through coursework and realize you don't like design, there's construction, there's planning, there's traffic signals, there's environmental, there's a wide variety of what we
Hmm.
do, even just within in one agency. Um, I work for INDOT because I enjoy serving my state. I like being here to help the roads and the people who drive on the roads. And so I work for INDOT basically to be here for fellow Hoosiers.
That's great. I think that's important to think about too, because there's such a vast opportunities within the role that you're playing, and then the fact that you're driven by service, right?
Right.
And I think that's important, and I think that's something that we're all public servants, and which to me, like what you're saying, is very rewarding.
Mhm.
Um, so we're about ready to wrap up. I have a few more questions, but
Sure.
um, what what advice would you give someone that is thinking about a career path, not exactly sure what they want to do, but they'd be interested in learning more about how to become an engineer, or how to just get a foot in the door? Advice would you give someone?
Well, for a college student, there's a variety of different organizations. It's been 20 years since I was in high school, but the Boy Scouts of America had the Explorers Group that kind of tied
Mm.
professional engineers together with high school students who wanted to learn about engineering. I know robotics clubs are very active,
Hmm.
all the various STEM. I've found that engineers, we're very geeky people, and we really like talking about what we do. So most engineers are more than happy to reach out to young people and say, hey, what do you want to ask me? In fact, this past year I answered questions for a young man who was studying early engineering coursework in high school and had to interview an engineer. So I think if you can meet someone or find an
Hmm.
organization that, most engineers are more than happy to talk about what they want to do.
That's great advice, and I think the students that hopefully will have an opportunity to learn about your career journey and will they'll probably get excited and start to think about well you know now that I know somebody that is doing this, and I can inevitably reach out and hopefully have conversations with you. So I think that's an exciting opportunity. Well, thank you so much for the great conversation, and I do have one final question, and we kind of talked about this a little earlier, but what's we're kind of in a strange time right now, so I think we need to think about some positive things. So I'm just curious, what's one positive thing that's maybe happened to you this week that you'd like to share?
One thing that's happened this week, my sister is in graduate school herself, getting a teaching degree for students with vision disabilities, and she won a scholarship. And normally with social or with a normal ceremony, we would not be able to attend because she lives out of state. But
Hmm.
with Zoom, we were all able to watch her receive her award last night.
That's great. That's fantastic. That's great news. Well,
Yeah,
congratulations to her and to your family. Well, thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it. This has been great, and I can't wait to share this out to students and to people that want to just learn a little bit more about what you do and what we do. So thank you again for your time.
you're very welcome.